Although typical gardening season is winding down, preparation for spring and summer has already begun. Today, Clydette Alsup-Egbers, Associate Professor in the Darr School of Agriculture, is joining me today on this episode of Bears Show How to Plan Your Garden.
Most of us are starting to put our gardens to bed at this time of year, but there are a couple of crops you can actually grow, get started this year, and then have them to harvest next summer. And garlic happens to be one of them. Very healthy, very flavorful. You can buy the bulbs from a local garden center or get mail or online seed companies, and they will start delivering the bulbs to you within this month. And so once you get them, it's important to separate the bulbs into cloves. There's lots of different types to choose from. This happens to be elephant garlic, which I really like because it's very huge cloves that are easy to work with. But there's many other different varieties of garlic as well, each with unique taste differences. The very critical thing first off is to start with healthy soil. This is going to be true whether it's garlic or onions or any other crop at all. So you want to make sure the pH is correct. You can send off a test to the extension center to get your soil tested, or there are home kits you can buy. So you test the pH. You want it in about a neutral or a little 6.5 is a good range. You want lots of organic matter, deep, well drained. I have heard you can plant into containers. I haven't tried it myself, but if you have soil that just does not permit all of those qualities, try it in containers. Plant sometime probably here in October. You want these in the ground for at least a month or two before the ground freezes because they need to develop a good strong root system. The tops won't start to emerge until spring. And what I always do is, once I've got them planted, I get straw bales and then I'll spread straw over them to give them protection during the winter. It's very important your first year that you harvest these, that you separate when it's time to plant, separate out all these cloves from the bulbs and save the biggest ones to replant. Smaller ones like this, you probably just want to go ahead and use and eat. And then every year, if you select the largest ones, with time your bulbs start getting larger and larger. It's much easier to work with. Whenever I harvested last summer, I had to cure them, so put them in a dry, warm location that's shady for several weeks so that they can harden. And then I put them in just bowls or containers like this and put them in the coolest location I could find, and in my house it's the basement, and left them there until it's time to separate these and plant. Water only if it's dry. They usually have a pretty good root system and don't need a lot of excessive water. And so just good growing conditions, hand weed if necessary so you don't damage the developing buds. And then it'll be typically in summer sometime, and it depends on the weather. Some of their outer leaves are going to start to turn yellow and fall off and die. When you still have at least 3 or 4 green leaves, that's the time to harvest, trying to be careful to get under there not to damage the bulbs. And then the curing process. Again, garlic doesn't have a lot of pests, and if you prepare your soil really well, you probably won't have any problems.
Okay, that's a great way to get an early start on your garden. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Bears Show How to Plan Your Garden.